Bye-bye.
Okay, it's lucky, Rabbi. Thank you. Yes. No pressure's on.
No pressure.
Yeah. All right. What? Lots of pressure.
He's the technology rabbi.
Oh, first of all, I have to first of all, make a correction from last week. Something that I said was inaccurate. I lied to you. And as any good liar, I have to know what parts to retract, which parts not to retract. Shemitah, I mentioned that by next Shemitah or next two Shemitahs we'll have majority of Jews in Israel, and therefore Yovel will kick back in. That's what I thought was true. It turns out it's not true. I do believe a majority of Jews in Israel. That part I think is true. But in addition to majority of Jews, or perhaps majority of tribes, like people from each tribe, whatever it is, but you also have to have. I looked it up because I was like, I knew something. I want to see what was going on with it, so I did a little bit of research. I went online. No, I'm joking. What I did was I looked it up, and they all seem to say that besides having the majority of Jews or all Jews, whatever it is, you have to have each tribe in its place also. In other words, each Shevet has to have its spot. And since we don't have that, so it's not so shaykh anymore until Mashiach comes. And therefore Chaim writes that therefore Yovel nowadays is not possible. So I retract my
Why can't
statement. It doesn't mean that it won't be their right so within a few years anyway. Mashiach might come. But Chas v'shalom not, the fact that the majority of Jews in Israel won't make it. What?
No.
Okay, so that's a...
why wouldn't it work out before Mashiach?
Because you have to not just have the majority of Jews in Israel, each one has to be in their spot. Shevet Dan, Shevet Gad, so we're all mix.
When do they start calculating Shemitah from after the Eretz or when they conquer the Eretz?
You mean Yovel?
No, Shemitah.
Shemitah's been since the beginning. So we just keep tracking Shemitah.
No, I'm saying when they first start counting.
The beginning?
Yeah, they started counting. When they enter.
I know the Gemara in Erechim is this. I think it's 14 years after. I think afterwards. Erechim. That's where it is. I think it's 14 years afterwards. There's a machlokas there also, but the goluses and stuff.
But if the only thing I'm thinking to like that means that we still have to keep all the laws of Shemitah.
No, Shemitah is no Yovel. But there's a lot of difference between Shemitah and Yovel.
Did you say before that there's a rabbinic Shemitah enacted right now?
Shemitah nowadays is or D'oraisa or D'Rabbanan anyway. The sad to say is the Rabbanon is because there's no Yovel.
The fruit store.
Besides Shemitah, there's another bunch of laws we said last time that kick in when Yovel kicks in also. Like all the real estate laws from this last time. Houses in a walled city, houses in an unwalled city, fields, all the halachas of real estate change when there's a Yovel, when Yovel Bichlal exists, even if not Yovel year. Eved Ivri you can have again, kind of a Jewish slave.
I bet the farmer's like a 1 year vacation.
The farmers get a year, that's next year they get off. Also, I read a different story. I told you every year more stories come out of Shemitah.
Yeah.
I read one, but it was not from news recently. I read a story from 1980. Tafshin Mem. Tafshin Mem was a Shemitah year. I'll tell you quickly the story. Tafshin Mem was a Shemitah year. What happened was there was an organization that tries to get the farmers to take on Shemitah, whatever. So a certain Rav, who today is, I think his name is Grossman. He's now a Rav in Elad, whatever. It used to be in the Jordan Valley area, whatever. So he was giving a talk about Shemitah and Bitachon and stuff like that. So one of the people, not religious, farmers, not religious, so one said to him, he was the Rav of the area. He said, look, you're telling me, you give me a guarantee that if I keep Shemitah this coming year, you guarantee that God is going to bless me in extra? If you give me a guarantee, I'll keep it. So I'm not going to say, I said, I don't know. Darbanan, some old told him, Darbanan nowadays. I said, I have to find out. So fine. So I went to Rav Yashiv. Again, it's 1980. So Rav Yashiv said to him, he said, look, some hold on Darbanan nowadays, it doesn't work the bracha, extra in the 6th year. It could be you have to have majority, all of Klal Yisrael keeping it, not just individuals. So he said, I guarantee you the bracha that I can't give. However, he said to him that for sure, he'll have siyata dishmaya, and I forgot something else, like someone help him or something like that. That he said for sure you're going to have. So he went back to this guy, and he said, look, I asked, he said, basically you're not going to lose, but there's no promise you're going to get extra. So the guy said, fine. So he said, I'll do it. So he's the only guy in his whole area that's going to keep Shemitah. So Shemitah comes, and he's not doing it. So no, he's not going to work in the land. So he's not going to work in the land. He's going to keep Shemitah. Everyone else is making fun of him. He's like, "What are you talking? Crazy?" And he's like, "No, keep it." So time goes on. Everyone's doing it. His farm, all this tons of fields are just lying there. So other farmers, they want to use the stuff. You got tractors, you got machines there. So he said, I don't know if I could. I asked the Shiloh. He asked the Shiloh. He said, he can't do it because that's for them also. So I can't do that. So he said, no. Good. I said, well, rent it. Nothing happened. I'm doing it all the way through. Maisa goes the whole year. Goes the whole year. They did their thing. He didn't do his thing, so to speak. That was it. End of the year, they had after Rosh Hashanah on Tzum Gedalia. So once Tzum Gedalia, Rav came over to him to his house, had a little chaim, they had a little drink. He felt he passed the test. Fine. Now what? I don't know. Yeah, it's 8th year. Shemitah's over. I can plant. I plant with what? So the way it works is, maybe it still works. The reason is there. The government, whatever, there's organizations, they give you like the wheat or something, and you survive because I don't know if anything's left because it's already after this planting time. So he goes down there, and he tells them, "Look, I want to start planting." So like you're a little late. He says, "Shemitah, nothing left." So he has a friend there. He makes connections. He says again, "I gotta find. I have nothing at all." So I guess I'll tell you the truth. Someone that he knows in there. He says the only thing we have left, and I was going to throw them out, is we have celery seeds. It's like, celery? That's all you have? Yeah, he said, they're not that good, and I was going to chuck them, but if you want, I'll give it to you for free. And I'm do them. No, you have nothing else. So I thought I'll take them. So he took tons and tons of celery seeds. So he takes the celery seeds and he plants all his fields celery. And the stuff mamish grows. Stark. High, big, strong, good. Tons and tons of good, big, tall, healthy celery stalks. And people start making fun of him. What do you do with all the celery? There's a limit to how much you can have for karpas, you know what I mean? So anyway, doesn't matter, eat the celery. 6 months later,
He gets called.
the guy calls him up. Gets a call. The guy who admitted, he says, listen, those celery seeds I gave you, he said, did you do anything with them? He goes, did I do anything with them? He goes, I breathe celery, I see celery, I eat celery. They call me Mr. Celery around here. Did I do anything with them? So he says, so listen, he said, usually sell celery, you can sell for, he said, sorry, you can sell for $50 a head or something. You can get between $3 to $5 a head now.
What?
Why? Because in Europe, had a massive cold spell. The people want celery for soup or whatever else. Everything's frozen. And they're looking through the world where there's celery. He says, I have plenty of celery. Got done miles of just celery heads. So he's like, they're sending trucks over. So the government arranged for a whole bunch of planes. They sent trucks, hundreds of trucks to him. You got hundreds of workers, Jews, Arabs, everyone's filming. Let's go, start working the fields. He made so much money from it. He bought a fancy car, and he called it the Shemitah car. He's called it the Shemitah. Then he bought a fancy like stallion or some horse or something, and he called it the Shemitah horse. Shemitah. Now, his buying of the car was a little bit like when he drove it around in his area, and everyone saw like his fancy car that he's driving around. He'd honk, "Hi guys," you know what I'm saying? So it could be it wasn't so lishma. You know what I'm saying? Then it was. So Evan says he said this. No, Kiddush Hashem it was. It was because everyone saw what the result of Shemitah was. Okay, whatever. This 1980 story. We'll see. Next year, which new stories are coming out? So mention next year when you guys come back, we'll talk about the new stories that developed.
What was the year with the locusts?
Which one was locusts?
The locusts around everyone else's field except for this one guy. They
Remember the story? I don't remember what it was. So a lot of stories. In fact, every year you have 2 or 3 stories that way. One year was the banana stories. Bananas was one year with the
Banana story.
one of those banana trees, and there was another one where some kind of fruit trees. Every year there's another story that comes out. Every cycle. Okay, fine. The kids are. We said last. I want to get to last. So as far as Yovel goes, again, Yovel nowadays is on hold until Mashiach comes. I want to. It says I think we ended off. I don't remember exactly where we left. But we ended off with. We spoke about the reasons for Shemitah. We give 3 reasons for Shemitah. One was bitachon, that like this guy have test. Then it says, I thought of it afterwards. This guy, his test wasn't for a year; it was for a year and a half. Because the whole year Shemitah he's being tested, and then the whole half year also he didn't know what he's going to celebrate. I'm saying it took another half a year. So I think the test could be for a long time sometimes. Not just not dafka over. Okay. And I also one more thing also. What about those where the miracle, so to speak, didn't happen? Those stories you don't hear about, and they for sure happen. Every time there's a story, no, you hear stories. What about the ones that didn't have stories? So the ones where there are stories are a gilui to the ones where there's no stories. why didn't you get it? I don't know. God has his cheshbonos why you didn't and he did it. But the fact there are stories like that shows Maisa God does respond. That's how it's supposed to be. And the Maisa they pass the test and they will be rewarded for it. What's their reward? I don't know. But the fact that it didn't happen doesn't mean anything less. Okay. So one is bitachon. It's a test of bitachon. Are you going to trust in God or not? Another thing was we said that it's a reminder every 7 years that God owns the land. Right? Hands off. It's not yours. It's mine. Don't touch. Hands off. Now the emes says that's more so with Yovel. Why is it more so with Yovel? Where do you see that idea more with Yovel?
The land actually goes back to the...
Right, because you mamash was your land. I've been living on this land for the past 20 years. I inherited from my father who lived in this land for the past 20 years. For his 40 years. Right, and now it's going back to somebody you don't even know who lives across the world or whatever, on the other side of the country. That's how it is. You go, all the stuff you put in, the houses, at least the houses outside of Yerushalayim, in those places, the land, everything goes back to where it was.
What's the point of that?
So we're saying over here, one thing is, one of the reasons is, God is reminding you, you're not the owners of the land. You don't own the place.
So I don't get it. Is there a way to Pruzbul?
No, Pruzbul, okay, that's a good point. Pruzbul is something different. Pruzbul has to do with something that won't apply here for another year later, at the end of Shemitah. If I lend you money, so the end of Shemitah, which means when it turns Shkia, the sun is setting, on Erev Rosh Hashanah of the 8th year. So you watch the sun set, and I'm saying Rosh Hashanah time, Mincha, Erev Rosh Hashanah, sun disappears. At that moment, a debt that you have cannot be claimed anymore. I lend you $1,000, sun sets, I come to Rosh Hashanah night, or whatever, next week, and I come over and I was like, yo, you owe me $1,000. I can't do that. I can't take you to court, I can't pressure you, garnished.
So that's stealing.
Never come back.
No, I have no right. It's not stealing. I can't claim the money now. And if you come to me and say, by the way, you lent me $1,000, here's the money back, so I have to say, I'm a shamet. I'm not coming after the loan. I dropped the loan. And if he says, but I want to pay you, so you can take the money. And it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for him to pay anyway. But and he should, so to speak, insist, and I'll take it. But I have to. But I can't. I certainly can't claim it, and I can't. First time he offers it, I've got to say that I dropped it. So I recommend going to borrow some serious money for. Now, how do you avoid this problem? You don't.
Are you still living in Yosef Dishman? Like you would never come back to Gilgal because you never owe anyone money.
Are you chayav b'dei shamayim?
No.
It never says. It sounds like you are chayav the money. It's just that you don't. He can claim it from you. That's what it sounds like.
So what, did they come back?
Not sure. I'm not sure. What?
Did they come back in a
I don't know. Not sure. Now, what happened was, Hillel established a Pruzbul. I'll tell you what happens in Pruzbul. I'll tell you the misunderstanding of it, and then I'll tell you a little bit of the real understanding of it. What happens in Pruzbul is like this: if you are I'm the lender, I lent you the money. So I'm the rich man here. So I lent you the $20,000 before Rosh Hashanah to be right, and you come back next week. I want to claim the money back from you. So I can't do it. It's after Shkia. It's after Rosh Hashanah. But if I write a Pruzbul, then I can still collect. That's how it works. As long as I, the lender, writes a Pruzbul before Shemitah is over, I can collect my debts after Shemitah. Now, in come people who have an agenda and say things like, you see that God said you can't, but yet Hillel, in his wisdom, understands life can't survive that way, and therefore he said, well, use a loophole, and you could. So therefore you see that in a case where you just can't do it, the rabbi is allowed to say that you're allowed to do it. So therefore you can drive to Shalom Shabbos, or to the movies. This is a standard used and abused heter by the ignorant with an agenda to allow whatever it is that you're trying to allow. You see, Hillel could do it. If Hillel could override the rules when he felt he had to, we can also override the rules when we feel we have to. Right. Anyway, the stupidity in that is that, of course, Hillel can't override God's rules either. And anybody who says that is just an ignorant person with an agenda.
It's also funny how they if Hillel can do it, then obviously
That's how I've heard it. But it's also it's the idea they use it as a raya. You see that when you can, and then it says, how does Hillel say it? They couldn't withstand. People weren't lending money. The poor needed money. No one's lending the money. They were stuck. So Mele, I'll solve the problem. I'll just override the Torah. You can't override the Torah. Hillel also can't override the Torah. Hillel does not override the Torah. All that Hillel was doing is taking a law that exists anyway within Shemitah, and he basically, according to one opinion, just basically told people to do it. That's one pshat in it. And the law that always existed, what the pshat is, that only a personal debt can't collect. A Beis Din is allowed to collect debts. So what I'm doing, I'm turning my loans over to Beis Din. Anybody could have done it before Hillel also. So the Hillel made it more of a being that he saw people were not lending money when it was necessary, and therefore the level of bitachon was not where it should have been. That being the case, so he said, giving money to the Beis Din. So all he's doing is taking the law that exists already and maybe publicizing it. That's one pshat. The other pshat is that he only did it being that Shemitah, on the tzad that Shemitah is D'Rabbanan. I mean, if you Shmuel Shemitah is D'Oraisa, you can't. If it's D'Rabbanan, you can D'Rabbanan or D'Rabbanan. You can do it. D'Rabbanan can tell you what to do and how to do and what not to do. So you can do it. But obviously you can't overrule a Din D'Oraisa. Okay, fine. Anyway, that's to do with principle. Alright. Okay, so one thing, so that going back, the last thing we had to say was, so that was again, bitachon, we spoke a little bit last week, obviously you get extra, but you don't necessarily see how it works, fine. The idea that you don't own the land, again, Yovel especially, the land goes back to, you don't own the land, not the Balabatim, fine. The other thing we gave like Shemitah was that the 6 days of Shabbos, 6 days of the week corresponds 6 days of creation, Shabbos corresponds to the 7th day of creation. In the same way, the 6 years of Shemitah correspond to the 6,000 years of the world. And the last year of Shemitah year, corresponds to the 7,000th year. Okay, now, just to get you scared, how does it continue? So first, I think we spoken in the past a little bit about this. The world that we hold, it's different opinions, we seem to go to opinion, that the world is going to be 6,000 years. That's the deadline. So that being the case, the world is over at the end of 6,000 years. Mashiach's going to come, and the world will end before the end of 6,000 years. You got 230 something left years to go, max. That's it. What happens after that? So, there's a Tchias Mason that takes place. Now, we spoke in the past. Let's talk briefly of how the system works. This actually came up this morning a little bit. But a person comes back, right? A person comes down to this world. You do a job, didn't do a good job, whatever you say. You go back up, God's like, try again. You go back down 100 years later, right? You did okay here, you messed up over there, God, you come back up, God's like, third time. So you come back down a few hundred years later, and you up and down, elevator a few times, and finally, after 10, 15 times, we're in Derech. Now, you're most likely, very possibly, this is the last time. Because already from earlier generations, they seem to say we're the last round. So by now already, it seems like we're the last round. So you don't want to blow it this time. Now, China people are already blowing it, I hear. Okay. Now what happened at the end? When it comes to the end, God then takes the neshama that has been here 15 times, and it gives you a judgment, because each time you get judged for your individual life, this time you're going to get what happened to your soul at the total. The goal is every time you come back, it's eventually everything combined, you've got the perfected soul at the end. That's the goal. And mainly you take the perfected soul, hopefully at the end, whatever level it achieved in totality of the past 15 lives, God creates a new, mentioned before, pre-sin body of Adam Rishon, puts the two together, and then God judges, that's the ultimate judgment day, the real Yom HaDin with the capital Yud, what is going to happen for the Olam Haba eternity. Now, God does that with the person, with the neshama. Whatever he decides, and then the body and the new body and the soul go together into Olam Haba. Now, Olam Haba is not this world, because this world is a physical world. Just like the body decomposes, it comes back as a pre-sin, more spiritual, pre-sin Adam Rishon body, which could go into Olam Haba. The world as we know it, the physical world as we know it, gets decomposed and reconstructed in a Gan Eden, pre-sin, whatever, or Eden type of world. That world is a world that's fitting for this type of spiritual body. And then God takes that combination and puts into this world. So there's a period of time where God, just like decomposes the body and reconstructs a spiritual one, God, so to speak, takes apart the world and reconstructs a spiritual world. That's the 7,000th year. 7,000 year, that the entire world as we know it gets destroyed. It's not pshat nuclear war. Pshat is God revamps. And when we say the world we know it, l'chor includes everything, not just our planet, but everything physical, sun, stars, the whole thing gets redone. Angels maybe? I don't know. Everything is revamped into a spiritual existence. which is fitting for this new spiritual body in the neshama to go into. That's the world of schar. Then you go to the 8,000th year. The 8,000th year is where the relationship between the body, now you're in this new world, the 7th is destroyed. 7,000 years what God destroys, we constructs. The 8,000th year, the body and soul are in this new world. And this new world, the relationship between body and soul is the opposite of what it is today. Today, our bodies are dominant, and through the body you keep the soul alive. When you eat food, your soul stays with you. In the 8,000th year, it's the opposite. The body is kept alive through the soul. God feeds the soul spiritual nourishment, and through the soul being alive, the body is kept alive. The opposite way. That's the level we mentioned in the past that Moshe Rabbeinu was living on for 120 days. When he didn't drink physical, because his body, his soul got nourished, and the body was kept alive through the soul. So the level of Moshe Rabbeinu for 120 days, that's the level we'll be on for the 8,000th year. Then after 8,000 comes the 9,000th year. And the 9,000th year is where the body becomes even less physical and more spiritual, and the soul gets more of a dominant position of the two of them. 1,000 years later, you come to the 10,000th year, where the body becomes even more spiritual, less physical, and the soul becomes even more predominant of the two. 10,000 years, 11,000 years, 12,000 years, 13, 14, 15, 20, 30, etc. Every 1,000 years, the relationship between the body and the soul, the body becomes more spiritual and less physical, and the soul becomes more dominant, until after 49,000 years, when the body, after that, reaches total spirituality, ultimate and pure spiritual, and the neshama and the body together in the ultimate year, which is 50,000 years, which is Yovel. That's the Yovel, that's the, everything goes back to where it was, and that the body is purely spiritual, and then the body and the soul, pure spiritual, go forever.
So where?
Long way to go.
Long way to go.
This is a crazy
Like,
class.
what do you mean go forever?
If you think about this too much, you might go a little nuts.
Yeah!
Always
Yeah,
happens.
oh
Always
my
happens. You think
God.
about it, like
Yeah.
it doesn't stop.
Then you think to yourself, well, let's see.
I'm trying not to think about much.
No, it doesn't stop.
So the body is alive for 20, 40, 50,000
Right, so you figure, well, let's see, I've been living this world for 80 years, 90 years, you hit 100 years, and I'm not turning old man. That's nothing. We're talking about like, even the 6,000 years is nothing. 7, 8, 10, 30, 40, 50.
And then at 50,000, where?
And then, after 50,000 years, then you finally get to the ultimate.
Which is.
Okay.
Which is what?
Wait, where do we bring this
This
down?
is like the first time I've ever heard of it. Like,
Okay.
Where do we bring this down? How did you get all this?
What?
Where do we bring,
Turtles
like,
and
where do we
shit.
bring this down from?
lived
We have
for
to
a
write
little
that from?
while, you fought the war,
I
whatever.
told you, you don't have sources in
What
this
up
class.
with that?
I make some stuff up. I don't have
Part of
sources.
it.
So you make up. It's so hard. You learn it. You'll figure it. As you learn, you'll find it. No, yeah. Anyway, what? If you could have bribed him with the cookies if you would have had him. Okay, that's how it works, Lamaisa. And just to scare you further, the Mishnah says, don't think you can escape. Yeah.
Once we escape.
I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It's like, I'll tell you why. Because we have to deal with life that we're familiar with, and we have, people have their comfort zone. This is not within the comfort zone. My comfort zone is, things I can deal with, things I can cope, things I can understand, things I don't understand, but I understand how they relate. Then when you start talking about 11,000 years, 12,000, it's a long time. 30,000 years.
Nobody dies during that time, is that what happened?
No, death is over. Just higher and higher.
Okay, so what do you do then?
It stops at 6,000. So now, so you think about it, the whole world, it's a little bit freaky in the sense that this entire world is 6,000 years, which is not much compared to what's coming. It's almost a tenth. Out of the 50,000, the 6,000 of this world is like a joke. And the 100 years that we live is not even a joke. And you'll tell me we were back already 10 times. Okay, it's a total of what, 1,000 years? 500 years, like that's nothing. And all that will determine your state in everything that follows afterwards. Because everything that follows after is all based on what you did in your short lifespan. That is a chesed. God could have said, look, you get a day for a day. You know what I'm saying? You work hard 20 years a year, you get 20 years a year. You have 100 years a year, you get 100 years a year. God's like, no. You work hard 100 years a year, 90 years a year, 80 years a year, and the MS says even less than that, talking about 50 years over here, because first 20 doesn't count, then you get older, 50 years over here, and I'll give you 50,000 years in return. And then eternity after that, by the way, plus eternity. It's math. Yeah.
Instead, we just want to.
K to infinity.
Yeah. But you have to have the if you don't use the 50 years, then yeah, it's not worth it. It's a drop in the bucket. It's not worth the effort of the drop in the bucket to get back all that stuff. It's like telling you fill up the bucket of water and you get back an ocean. So it's not worth the bucket. It's hard. I agree it's hard, but it's not worth it. You get back an ocean. Not much an ocean. The bucket, you don't even notice a bucket worth it. Take a bucket out of the ocean's not look any less. Take that amount of effort and you get back an ocean. I'm saying it's an investment.
It's your life.
It's not worth the investment. No. Okay. You know, I was talking last week in the morning. We were talking about that one of the big things. I forgot what I thought. I suppose I don't know. It came up recently. One of the big things that people get out of the yeshiva in Israel, whatever program they go to, is their perspective. Hopefully, you learn more, you learn less. Each person their own level of learning. I came to class, didn't come to class. I did Rick's Quantum, didn't do Rick's Quantum, whatever. But over time, I didn't say anything. I'm just saying. But over the year, hopefully, one thing that guys pick up is perspective. That at least you should look at the world with the perspective of reality, of the way things really are, and not with the fake that the world convinces us of. Oh, this is very, very important. Not really. I mean, you look at the world the way the Torah, the way God wants you to look at the world, which is the way He really deals with the world. What's the reality of it? As opposed to, I said this in the past. I said last week. What does the word olam mean?
Forever.
No. What does olam? The world.
Did this, I forgot.
What does the world in Hebrew? Olam. What does it mean? Leis alim. I spoke last week, I think.
So about like 2 3 days.
Leis alim means to what? To what? No. Lahalim. Oh, we had a Gemara in Bamatzia. A mafkid. What guys learning? What sure you in? Membeis.
What word is it?
Go back there and put them share. What?
What word is it?
Membeis Manalef. Memgil. Membeis.
Oh, we did it. You said the same exact thing last time. Like,
We did?
what's the word? You're like, we did some. What's the word?
Ein habracha membeis.
Yeah.
Matsuya ela b'davar hasamu min ayin. So one of them has misalim. Isn't it misalim? One of them has it like that?
No.
Where's that? Membeis.
Nisala?
Misalim min ayin. Is that part of it or something like that? There's two lashonos there.
Mamlefes. No,
What's membeis? Oh, here. It has over here.
the other one was Shalit.
Oh, Shalatas. You're right. It's not misalim min ayin. You're right. Shalatas. You're right. Okay, so what does misalim mean? It means to be hidden. To be hidden. Olam means to be hidden. God hides Himself in the world. So God makes the world in a way that you see one thing, reality is different. That's how it works. You look at a piece of cake, and it looks like it's just, it's good cake, and the reality is it's poisonous. Or you look at some brownies, and it looks like just innocent brownies. And the reality is what the reality is. But it looks fun. I mean, the reality is not like that. So now, you look at the Chafetz Chaim says it's mashal. I think it's also that. Let's see if you go to the kitchen, if you go to a restaurant, and you go to the kitchen and you see them putting poison in the soup, and then they feed it to everybody. And it's, wow, it smells so good looking. It's like want to dig into the soup. It's delicious soup. And you look, that's poisonous. They start yelling, it's poisonous. So all look at you like you're crazy. It doesn't look poisonous. Doesn't smell poisonous. It's a restaurant. Of course it's not. But you know it is. You happen to see the guy put poison in it. You happen to know it is. So I've got information they don't have. So with all the peer pressure they're going to pressure you with. You can listen to them? Obviously not. If they're smart, they'll be choshish for what you have to say. If they know that you're a normal person and your head is on your shoulders and you don't imagine crazy things, then they'll at least be choshish also. But if not. But you for sure not going to listen to them. So in the same way, they're telling you this is crucial, this is important, all the things. I don't understand. You're missing information. I have the information and you don't. So I'm going to listen to you. So if we go, that's what it is. God does that on purpose in this world. God hides Himself in the world to make the world look one way. He's a Cohen, it's alright. God makes the world look one way on purpose, and in reality it's not like that. That's how God does the world. He hides Himself in the world. It looks like A, really is B. So now you're going to go with what you see or what you know is true. Okay, so you got to figure what you want to do.
So, It's from a Mishnah.
What?
It's from a Mishnah.
What?
The 6,000, the 7,000.
I told you I can't reveal my sources that I make up in class because there are no sources, and I just quote some random Kabbalistic sounding book. Yeah.
The shla.
It's in the some Aramaic words. Yeah, it's the Zer Anpin Zuta.
The who?
The Zer Anpin Zuta. That's where it is. Yeah. If you look there, yeah. If you don't understand it, whatever. I can't explain to you, but you might not be able to find it because it's not it hasn't been published for a good few thousand years already. Anyway, the Derech Hashem says it. Not Derech Hashem. Das Vuna says it. Shla says it for sure. Shla Kodesh. He spells it out. The Shla says it. Stop. Shla says it. Das Tvunos says part of it.
That's hard to understand.
Das Tvunos.
Ramchal.
Ramchal. He says it. The Derech Hashem I don't think says. He says part of it. Not the 10,000. Not the thing there. Okay. And the Zeran Penzuta has it there. If you look there, that's where it's all spelled out. But I can't reveal those secrets to you. Okay. Okay, that's how it is. You have to look at the world the way it is, not the way you think it is.
The Gedolim endorse that.
What?
All Gedolim endorse the view that like the world's gonna 6,000.
The idea of the world is 6,000 is Machlokas in the Gemara.
Yeah.
But it's not like we can decide. But you look over the way the Achronim deal with it and whatever, it seems to be that's the accepted view. Yeah. Yeah, it seems also interesting that even in a topic like that, which is hashkafic, a future thing, almost nothing to do with God. Nothing with us, I mean, God decides, we don't decide that. It's not like a halach we have to act on. You can have a psak in such a case. Even a machlokas in that, there could be a psak halacha, so to speak. We paskin that it goes this way. Which is a weird thing. You would think it can't be a psak, you know what I'm saying? It's...
Yeah, I mean...
Does that mean it has to happen?
Yeah, that's psak. So it seems like we go with that opinion.
You're twisting God's hand, that's not gonna... God's like, we want 6,000. No, it can't happen. No,
well, yeah, machlokas in the Moraim tonight, whatever it is.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, that alone, how do you have machlokas?
It's not something
Is one of them wrong? Are they wrong?
Yeah, but you don't pass it.
That's the question. Are they wrong?
Okay, so
You have 10 opinions.
I'm not saying they're wrong.
So think it through a
What
minute.
is the psak halacha?
I understand, but you think it through a minute. Are they wrong or not wrong? Is it one of them? Is it all saying what they think is going to happen? It turns out one's right and the other 9 are wrong.
I don't know. One thinks he's right. According to him, he's right. According to him,
Well, then
he's right.
according to him. According to God. According to God. Is he right or wrong?
According to God, maybe the other one's right. They just don't pass him.
Forget psak. Forget the psak. Before he does psak. There's 10 opinions in tonight, let's say.
Yeah.
And all about what's going to happen in Mashiach's time. Right? Is a pshat that one of them is right and the other 9 are just making a mistake?
By definition, it has to be that way.
Okay, is it like that? Is it like that in halacha? We've spoken about this in the past. If you have machlokas, beisham yisrael, and mutar aser. Is the pshat one's wrong?
I mean, how
They're
do you?
both right.
It's elu ve'elu. That's how it works. They're both
But if they're
right.
polar opposites, then how do
One's mutar, one's aser. One's chayiv, one's pater. One says you're mamzer, one says married l'chatchila.
How can they both be right at the exact same time?
But it's not true. Or it is true.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense logically.
Beisil beishama. What does the Gemara say about them? What? Beisil beishama. What does the Gemara say about them?
Possibly baseball.
The Gemara says elu ve'elu dilim kuchayim. That means both are said by God. God said both mutar aser. God said chayiv pater. God said you're mamzer. You're not.
Right, they're all right. It's the one that we take on.
So we can't act on contradicting psak because I can't act, a human being. I can't eat it and not eat at the same time. I can only do one or the other. So we psak, but they're not wrong. God said both. So here also, why can't you apply the same rules to hashkafa? God said 10 opinions. God said 10 different things.
Well, then according to the opinion that says it's not the 6 7, you